Hello, my name is Dean Contover, and this is The Current Buzz. Thank you for watching today. Today I have John Moses. He's usually known around town in the school committee, but today we're going to talk about something else that he's got he's an advocate of a specific group of people that have come to the United States. And I just want to tell you what the advocacy group is. Massachusetts Afghan Alliance, and he started that, and it's a nonprofit, is that correct?
Yeah, so I started the nonprofit last year. So just to give you a little background, I'm an Afghanistan veteran. I served in Afghanistan in 2011, 2012. And I've been on TV a few times in town, and a lot of people have seen me around town advocating for both Afghan refugees and Afghan families that were resettled in Massachusetts, as well as some that were overseas. So I founded Massachusetts Afghan Alliance last year in cooperation with Stanford University and the Hoover Institution in order to improve general services, general benefits, not just for the Afghan community, because they have a lot of needs. We can kind of talk about what we want to provide to them, but we also want to provide services to the volunteer communities that are supporting Afghan refugees or families, because they come with different challenges necessarily than some of the other, Venezuelans or some of these other countries where we have a large refugee population. And in being an Afghanistan veteran, it felt appropriate for me to fulfill my promise to the Afghans that I made promises to and that our country made to. So Massachusetts Afghan Alliance, founded just last year. We've been doing a ton of work, building up the kind of the services, raising funds, doing all the things that we found to actually found a 501, which is actually a lot more work than I had expected. So
is that paperwork completed now?
I'm actually in the lawyer stage of things, which is AKA the slow part of things. So I've done a lot of the groundwork. We've done a lot of the image work. We've done a lot of the program development. We've done a lot of the data product development, like what we want to accomplish, identified board members, identified volunteers. We've done a lot of the work to lay all that down. But there's a great organization in Massachusetts called the Lawyers Clearinghouse, who actually provides, if you have a good plan to build a 501 or some kind of foundation or something, Lawyers Clearinghouse actually will provide connection with pro bono lawyers.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep. So outside of raising the money, which is right now I'm kind of in the friends and family bucket of money, which is mostly my money. You pay for the fees and all of that, but the law firm will actually go through and do your 501 paperwork, help you draft bylaws, make sure you're doing things the appropriate, transparent way. For me, one of the things on the founding was we want to be a really value-centric organization, because one of the things we've witnessed over the years for people helping Afghans and many others is a lot of times that the goodwill and maybe some of the way people act don't necessarily match up with the values they put on paper, right? So a lot of people get a mission, and then they're like, well, now I have a mission, so I have to figure out some values to put on my website. Yeah. But we want to be a values-first organization. And the first choice I actually made as a founder was to bring on an Afghan woman, Farishta Shams from Lowell, to be the co-founder of Mass Afghan Alliance. So I wanted women's voices. I wanted to build out our values first, and I want to get through this process so we could start providing services to both Afghans and volunteers.
Now, on this board, you have to have a board of directors. Is that correct?
Yes. So Farishta Shams, again, she was born in Afghanistan. She immigrated here in 2017. Right. She works for a local resettlement agency, so she's a case manager that already helps Afghans.
I see.
Is an expert kind of in that field.
What does she speak? What language, do you know?
She speaks Pashto and English.
Pashto and English.
In English, yep. Okay. So in probably a little bit of Dari, but I think mostly Pashto.
Okay.
Yep.
That's important.
Yep. And then we have a CTO. So we have a 3-person board right now in the CTO, because we're going to be a technology-driven nonprofit. But essentially, so Jason Chandonnet, he's out of Carlisle, Mass. Is a very good friend of mine, cares very much about the causes that I care about, and incredibly brilliant person. And so the board has been kind of selected, and we're ready to keep moving forward with this legal piece so we can actually start providing services. And Massachusetts Afghan Alliance is built to support specifically the 3rd Congressional District. So Representative Trahan's district, who, by the way, I could not find a better office that supports veterans than Lori Trahan's office.
Oh, good to hear.
Without Lori Trahan's support and the support of her staff, and we have Mass Afghan already has a liaison to her office. She was also the person that wrote my recommendation letter for the Hoover's Institution in Stanford. So probably without her, the weight of their voice supporting a veteran, I don't know if I get in the program that allows me to do this project. So just a lot of appreciation for that team in that office there.
Well, let me ask you this question. Say that again about the Congresswoman. That
She supports veterans, right?
Okay.
And there's a difference. So one of the things, again, you know, I'm going to be 45 soon. I retired from the Army in 2019. I spent 23 years, 3 tours, did all the things. And over those 23 years, what you learn is that people will often verbalize how much they support troops. They support the troops. They want to do this for the troops. They want to all these things. But when it actually requires action, not everybody does that. But Lori Trahan, over many, many opportunities, has never, not only turned me down, but proactively like given me staff members to help with different projects that come, both on the Afghan side. They've offered me the opportunity to be on the advisory board for the academies, so for things like West Point and the Naval Academy. So I get to speak to Chelmsford kids or kids joining the Army like really early, so it's really interesting. But when you talk about support for veterans, you can say things or you can do things. And Representative Trahan's office, I will talk to anybody anywhere on her behalf about how she treats veterans. Because she opened the door for me, and she opened the door for not just me. She opened the door and understood how important Afghan refugees were to the Afghanistan veterans. So a lot of appreciation to that office.
Well, why are they that important to the Afghan veterans? That's the question I have.
So I think if you like my favorite, my parallel I like to use is Vietnam, right? 20-year war. Afghanistan was actually even a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
And we did a similar thing that your generation did, right? The country went in, they started nation building, they want to do all these things. Well, we got to know Afghan people.
Help the Army.
Yeah, we learned. I was really fortunate that I was outside in the world of Afghanistan. I wasn't just on a base. But I think is when you're exposed, right, over 20 years. I mean, there were people that there were people that went to Afghanistan when they were 19 and went back when they were 29 and 39 and saw their interpreters like grow up and become Americans and like do all those things. But we, as Afghan veterans that got to know the real Afghan people, not the Taliban, not ISIS, the actual Afghan people, found an incredibly compassionate, caring, loving group of people that accepted Americans and accepted American exceptionalism at its root, especially women. Women definitely got it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then after 20-something years of war, when the country collapsed, I think for a lot of Afghanistan veterans and even Iraq veterans who dealt with a very similar situation in Iraq, the moral injury was the motivation. We had made promises, right? I remember very distinctly sitting in a room before I left Afghanistan, hugging my interpreter and saying things like, we're the United States. We don't leave people behind. It's not what we do. And then we did. And then so it became...
Yeah, but I mean, you were speaking on your own, or did you have documentation that you were speaking for the government?
So I don't think... So first of all, soldiers speak on their own, right?
Okay.
But I have a really long lens on this one, and I will tell you for a fact that we as Americans supported moving Afghanistan people here. People from Afghanistan, we did it through votes, we did it through policies, we did it through immigration policy, we did it through re-electing people and voting to go to war over and over and over again. Our country, through our voice as a democratic nation, voted for this war over and over again. And we voted for all the things that come with it, including my promise. So whether they're going to keep their promise or not, and they are doing a lot of work in the federal government now to improve getting Afghans that earn the right to come here, not people that just want to come here. Because these people earned. I know people that were interpreters for 10 years. I know people that were wounded. People often forget in the United States that a lot of these Afghan families are coming. They're veterans too. Those Afghan men and women are veterans. They fought the Taliban. So I just think that they fought a war to improve their country, to give themselves a better life, and we gave them all the tools, but we didn't give them that same commitment that we should have given to get them out when they should have been out.
The argument would be that if we go into any country in regards to our military and we stay there for a prolonged time, the people that we're fighting for or the people that should be fighting for themselves would eventually come to the United States. I'm talking about Vietnam and that type of thing.
Yeah, but who wouldn't want to, right? Here's the thing. Let's talk about Vietnam, right? Let's talk about the Vietnamese. The Vietnamese came after Saigon fell, right? And it was people just like me, except they didn't have the internet, they didn't have cell phones. They had to do this the real hard way.
Yeah.
I have a lot of empathy for those people.
Yeah.
One of the things, if you watch George Burns, not George Burns, the Burns documentary about Vietnam, on the very last episode, he talks about it. Vietnamese people that emigrated to the United States became one of the most politically active refugee and resettlement cultures in the country. And I can tell you the Afghans that come here, they work hard, they work multiple jobs, and they understand what they're working for, right? I often believe that refugees and people that come to the United States and learn about what it's like to be an American actually appreciate it a lot.
Oh, no doubt about it.
It just blows me away.
Yeah,
So
no doubt about it.
people that don't want refugees. So first of all, I can say, again, we make choices to go to war, and we go there for a long time. And I think we should find the best of those people and take them and make them American. I think that's the best way to make America better. So.
Okay.
My old opinion, though.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're doing good. You're doing good. You talked about families, Afghan families.
Yep.
Do we have, not to be Chelmsford-centric, do we have families in Chelmsford?
We do, actually. That's a great question. So we have several families in Chelmsford, and I continue to find new families. So one of the things that Massachusetts Afghan Alliance wants to do is we want to work town through town, find all these Afghan families, make sure that they have the resources they need. I'm really looking, if anybody knows of any families that were separated. We have several reunification families in Chelmsford, and these are particularly heartbreaking. So during the evacuation of the airport, there was, the Abbey Gate explosion. Families were separated. Some people were pulled into the airport, and I think a lot of those Afghan families, including children, unaccompanied children, right? And some of those unaccompanied children are here in Chelmsford. So people often think of Afghanistan as a place that's far away, but it's not. It's right down the street in Chelmsford. It's right down the street in Lowell. There's 20 people in Harvard, Mass. There's all these Afghan families that have come to the United States that we want to support. But yes, there's definitely families here.
So you're looking for Afghan families if you don't know where they are, and you think there's some in Chelmsford and Lowell, that they should contact you. We have your website up.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have the website up, and my email is on there as well. So we are definitely looking for families, really reunification families. We're also looking for volunteers, not volunteers even just for us, general people that have been volunteering to help Afghans.
Americans or Afghan volunteers?
Whoever.
Oh, well.
Anybody that's...
And veterans?
This is honestly, Dean, this is just my cause. Anybody that's willing to take it up.
I know it is. That's why I have you on.
So I'll just go out and I shake hands, and I want to meet those people and say thank you for doing the work and making, one woman in town has an Afghan woman. So she got here by herself, and she's an Afghan woman, weaving her way through the world. And what a great thing to do for another woman, to bring her into your house. She has her own house, her own place. She gave her space. She's helping her find work, and she didn't have to do any of those things, right? What do you know about an Afghan woman? But now she knows a lot. So
right.
And I'm sure she learned a lot of what I learned, that they're compassionate, incredibly grateful people. So
I think most people are in general. I mean,
I do. I think culturally, you have to be around an Afghan family at dinner to understand what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Well, then you have to invite me to dinner.
Then you're going to go to dinner, sir.
That's good.
Plan.
I always want food. I like food.
I do too.
And it doesn't matter what nationality it is.
Yeah.
I'll eat food.
Do you like lamb?
Do I like lamb? Of course I like.
You like lamb? They have a kobli palau. You'll really love it. It's a Greek. It's almost like a Greek dish. Very similar.
Probably from Alexander the Great or something like that. That's
Maybe.
probably. All right. So this alliance, you want people to contact you if they know of anybody. You want volunteers. The website's up there.
Yep.
We'll get people to contact you. I'm sure they'll be.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm out there. I'm actively working in the towns. I'm going town to town. I've been all over the.
Now, when you go town to town, who do you reach out to? Do you reach out to the veteran benefit guy or?
So we have a lot of sources.
Okay.
So one of the things that Hoover Institution and Stanford is providing, they're actually providing a research assistant. So I'm doing this right now manually.
Okay.
So a lot of it is who do you know?
Hoover Institute is part of Stanford.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to get clarification.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, and just really quickly, if there are other veterans that are watching, so I didn't actually know what a fellowship was. I don't have a senior, high level degree.
Oh, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't. You
I have
don't
just a regular old bachelor's degree. But one of the things I've always wanted to do is I've always wanted to
you're
do
not a Rhodes Scholar. Is that
none
what
of
you're
those
telling
things.
me? Okay.
I'm an Army 7 scholar. Let's
Okay,
say that. But I think one of the things I forgot where I was going there. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Okay. You're not a scholar. We know that.
Oh, and I'm not a scholar, but the Hoover Institution has a program. Thank you. The Hoover Institution has a program called the Bucknowski Hoover Veteran Fellowship.
Okay.
And it's actually a doer program. So they actually seek veterans across the country that have active projects, they have an active idea, they have a passion for what they're doing, and out of 150 submissions, they picked this project, Massachusetts Afghan Alliance, and me.
Wow, good for you.
And then 9 other different projects covering all range of things, from suicide prevention for soldiers using CBT therapy, breastfeeding allergens, which is actually really a thing I didn't know about. But there's all these things that are being done by incredibly talented. I'm actually quite fortunate to be a part of this group and to be around people like this because, you know, we have doctors. These are all regular old veterans. Some of them were generals, some of them were enlisted, but like they were all people that had a good idea and were exceptional in their space and had a great idea. So I'm really fortunate to be part of them. They're giving us a research assistant in order to help find all these people, to find all these research groups. We're actually going to provide a data product back to Representative Trahan and at the state level and to each of the local governments so they understand what the needs are, who are coming. A lot of these towns will have a family that has like 2 people, but they have 9 family members still in Kabul waiting to get back. So we want to take this opportunity and do whatever we can to give it back to the community. So we're going to give programs to the people and then data and information and policy recommendations to the local, state, federal, and the resettlement agencies. We want to be kind of like a center point.
Let's talk about resettlement. What's the procedure in regards to somebody in Afghanistan today? What is the holdup? What's the reason for the holdup if they have family here and they're still American citizens in Afghanistan? What is the problem? Explain it to the public so they can understand what's
Sure. So
today, because
right now, I can tell you how it goes right now. Okay. So I actually have 2 families that should be coming out pretty soon. So essentially the reason it's long, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, the Taliban is not a friendly partner. We don't speak to them directly. We don't recognize their government. It's not an elected government. Right. So we speak through Qatar. Qatar does all the negotiations.
Yeah, Qatar speaks for a lot of people.
Yeah, they really do.
If you get the pun.
I do.
Yeah, okay.
They have a lot of people in process. There's about 80,000 people still remaining. So, the Taliban 1 week could stop flights. They're working on different exit avenues, but essentially the holdup is delay because of bureaucracy. So State Department is a large bureaucracy. The paperwork that goes along with getting here is actually quite difficult. A lot of people have actually finished it now and they're in line. They're just waiting for their manifesting dates. But really, it's really about capacity. It's really, how do you fly all the people? I mean, there's ground routes too. There's other ways to get people up, but how do you fly 80,000 people? It's going to take a decade. And then once you're flying them somewhere, right now we fly a lot of them to Qatar. There's this place called CAS. That's where they do all the processing. But that place has a capacity limit.
Is that the military base, American military base in Qatar?
Yes, I forget the name of it, but yeah.
All right. It's a big base.
It is, yep.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of bureaucratic holdups. There were a lot of financial holdups. I mean, so a lot of the support that case managers, so outside of Mass Afghan Alliance, I'm a big part of the case management work. This is one-to-one. This is not professional. This is volunteer work. And a lot of the work we do is about keeping families stable, and that includes things like paying rent for people. Sometimes I pay rent. Fortunately, like I said, 2 of my people are going, so that'll help. But I pay 2 rents in Kabul, and I pay 1 rent in Pakistan for an absolutely brilliant woman, Zara. She's got a master's degree. She's an economist, and she was run out of Afghanistan. She's in refugee status.
She was run out of Afghanistan, or was she told that she should get out?
She was told she should get out.
Get out, okay.
And she had to get out. So there are photos of this incredible woman. This is before the collapse, standing in front of the only woman in front of a room of hundreds of men. She's one of those people, and she had to leave. So we myself and another case manager take care of there. And then generally the case manager community, which is a very veteran heavy, and civilians, a lot of civilians volunteer too. We work together to try to, we have this unofficial network of people keeping Afghans safe in Afghanistan. So it's just long. And then the reunification cases are specifically difficult because they're the lowest priority. So there's a prioritization of cases. So it's American citizens, special immigrant visas, green card holders,
green card
and
holders.
reunification cases.
I don't understand the green card holder, why you'd be in Afghanistan, because you can't apply for citizenship. You have to be consistently living in the United States. That's what got me about the green card holders.
Sure, and I understand that too. I think, so I had American citizens actually in Afghanistan. So,
I understand.
In that particular family, I know really well. I won't say his name, but that particular family I know really well. And I asked him, I said, hey, why'd you go back? And he's like, because I had a new kid, and I wanted to meet my grandmother. Like a lot of green carders, right? He wasn't going to get his citizenship because he left the country. But he's like, also his mom is older, and so they flew back to Afghanistan. Showed him the baby, hanging out, and then all of a sudden, a few months later, they stayed with their family.
Collapsed.
And everything collapsed, and then all of a sudden they're trapped with a 9-month pregnant woman, which was a big part of their delay because they had a baby on the way. Yeah, changes everything.
Yeah, it does.
It really does in immigration.
Yeah, interesting. So that's the procedure. So what do? They get a visa to come to the United States? Is that what happens? From the State Department? And then they present it through a third party in Afghanistan, and they agree or not to let them go or come back.
Yeah, without getting into too much operational detail, there is a process within the country that is handled by a certain group of people.
Where, in Afghanistan?
In Afghanistan.
Okay.
So they handle all the visa part and the medical, but they're their own thing.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, we don't give out details on how it works. Just
No, I mean,
Taliban need it. Not like they're watching Chelmsford, but hopefully.
Public. Yeah. Well, this would be on Facebook, so I mean,
maybe
they could watch it. So, so tell me about you were in Afghanistan, 3 deployments.
I did 2 in Kuwait and 1 in Afghanistan.
And 1 in Afghanistan. What did you do in Afghanistan? What was?
Yeah, I had a really unique role. I actually ended up getting assigned to the embassy. So right before we went, one of my officers, one of the operations officers and the battalion commander got together, and they were like, "We need somebody to go to the embassy who is friendly enough and can survive the embassy." Because I mean, young soldiers, right? I was in my third. We're a little crazy sometimes. So they needed somebody that could kind of act the right way and be political enough. So I ended up at the United States Embassy doing large-scale transportation and logistics. So essentially, all the ground cargo that came over the borders in that country, my office at the embassy was responsible for, along with my Afghan employees. We would fly all over the country trying to prevent people from stealing stuff. It was a wild. I had access to transportation. I got to see a lot of the country, and the benefits of the role that I had is I was able to meet so many great Afghans, right? Because I wasn't stuck on a base.
Were you in the uniform or were you in civilian clothes?
I was on uniform on the base. A lot of times when we traveled outside the wire. So I was again, it was a unique position. I wasn't part of a regular army unit anymore. I was part of the embassy mission.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of times I traveled in civilian clothes just because I was alone. I mean, at least me and my interpreter would go places alone a lot.
Did you carry a pistol with you?
Yeah, 45 rounds in the 9mm. Yeah, an M9.
All right. No, I
still remember that.
Yeah. So remember, Afghanistan was landlocked, so it was very difficult to get equipment in.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and a lot of people didn't know this, a lot of it was run on the roads of Pakistan that went
100%.
into Afghanistan. So there was a lot of stealing along the way.
They were good at it too. You would have a container show up because my soldiers actually worked on different bases, so I would go out and see them.
Yeah.
And they would open they put the containers in a cool down lot because people knew they knew how to access them, and they put them down there for 7 days. And they'd open up a container that's supposed to be full of paper plates, and it was full of rocks, because somebody had emptied whatever was out and filled it up to give it the same weight.
Wow.
Oh yeah, they were good. They would take it off at the hinges. They'd take the tops of the containers off. They had all kinds of stuff to get stuff stolen. I actually, while I was in Afghanistan, I traveled to Torkham border, which is the southern border with Pakistan, one of the border crossing points, specifically because we had so many problems with containers going missing and things like that. And it was all American cargo, so we had to go.
So it wasn't ammunition that was.
No, that was always flown.
That was flown in.
Yeah, you don't
You don't mess around with that.
Yeah, you don't mess with
What about fuel? What was that?
Oh no, that got stolen too.
That's still.
Yeah, that definitely. There was a guy. So my job was ground cargo. There was a person next to me who was a Marine. His entire job was fuel. His job was harder than mine because they could steal fuel a bunch of ways.
Yeah. I mean, just take a.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's interesting.